Imagine vanishing without a trace right into the thin air. That's the tale of D.B. Cooper. This enigmatic figure, shrouded in mystery, has been the subject of countless investigations, theories, and debates for decades now. Notorious for his audacious act, D.B. Cooper is the name attributed to an unidentified man who, in the year 1971, hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft. In a bold and calculated move, Cooper demanded a ransom, which he indeed received. But the story does not end there. In what might be considered the climax of this baffling tale, Cooper did the unthinkable. He strapped on a parachute, leaped from the aircraft in mid-flight, and disappeared, seemingly swallowed by the vast expanse below. Despite the most extensive and expensive search in the history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Cooper's fate remains uncertain to this day. And just like that, D.B. Cooper was never seen or heard from again. The day was November 24, 1971, a day that would go down in history. In the heart of the holiday season, a man who called himself Dan Cooper boarded Northwest Airlines Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. He was nondescript, middle-aged, and dressed in a dark suit. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But as the plane took off, Cooper handed a note to the flight attendant. Assuming it was just another lonely businessman's phone number, she tucked it away, unread. Cooper leaned closer and whispered, "You might want to look at that note. I have a bomb." The flight attendant, her heart racing, unfolded the note. In neat, clipped sentences, Cooper laid out his demands: $200,000 in cash, and 4 parachutes. The plane landed in Seattle, where the authorities, desperate to avoid a mid-air explosion, scrambled to gather the ransom money and parachutes. Meanwhile, the passengers were told there was a minor technical snag, oblivious to the drama unfolding in the cockpit. Once his demands were met, Cooper released the passengers, but he had the crew remain and instructed them to fly towards Mexico City. The plane was to stay below 10,000 feet with the landing gear down, an unusual request that meant the aircraft had to fly slower and consume more fuel. As night fell and the plane refueled in Reno, Cooper made his next move. He ordered the rear air stairs to be lowered. And then, somewhere between Seattle and Reno, over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, he did the unthinkable. Strapping the money to his body and donning one of the parachutes, Cooper leaped into the void. The crew, realizing he was gone, alerted air traffic control. But it was too late. D.B. Cooper had vanished into the night, swallowed up by the darkness and the thick forest below. As the plane flew over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper jumped into the unknown. In the aftermath of the daring escape, the biggest manhunt in U.S. history was launched. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, took charge, following up on an estimated 1,000 leads in the first 5 years alone. The task was daunting, given that Cooper had jumped into a rugged, remote area of Washington under the cover of night and in the middle of a rainstorm. One of the most tantalizing pieces of evidence was discovered in 1980, almost a decade after the hijacking. A young boy found 3 packets of the ransom money, amounting to $5,800, buried on the banks of the Columbia River. Despite extensive searches in the area, no more of the money and no remains were found. Over the years, the FBI pursued numerous leads, each seeming promising at first, but eventually leading to a dead end. They analyzed fingerprints and DNA from the plane, and even used military software to recreate Cooper's probable jump zone. Theories about Cooper's fate have been as varied as they are numerous. Some believe Cooper was an experienced skydiver who survived the jump and lived off the grid. Others speculate he was a novice who perished that night, his body lost to the wilderness. Still, another theory suggests that Cooper was a disgruntled employee with a grudge against the airline industry, using his insider knowledge to pull off the heist. Yet no theory has been proven, and no suspect has ever been charged. The FBI officially closed the case in 2016, but the search for answers continues among amateur sleuths and armchair detectives. Despite the best efforts of the FBI, the D.B. Cooper case remains unsolved.